And we are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on Facebook. And then we will get things rocking and a-rolling. And it looks like we're good. So welcome in, everybody. It is the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle and powered by Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Here we are. Happy to have you guys. Hope you had a good weekend. Kind of starting to reach that sleepy part of the NFL summer, but we're here to try and keep things moving and fun and inspiring good conversation. But Zach, how was your weekend, bro?
It was okay. Kind of hot nowadays. I don't really do the heat that well, so I prefer to stay under the air conditioning if I can. But it's all good. Like you said, we're entering the doldrums of the off season, but in a few weeks from now, we'll have training camp. Next week, a few days from now, we have mandatory minicamp. So there's always football news, always Broncos to discuss. Happy to be doing it, as always.
Tomorrow, in fact, does mandatory. Let me go back to the press release they sent me. Pretty sure. Make sure I'm not. Yeah, June 13th through Wednesday. So, like a bat signal, for all the dudes that weren't showing up, the threat of a fine.
Melvin Gordon
will be showing up. So, yeah, that'll be fun. But, Zach, I wanted to get some further insight from you on this article over the weekend. Headline. I guess I'll bring it up for everybody. So we got the scratch and sniff ready to go here. Headline, Patrick Surtain, head coach Nathaniel Hackett gives the Broncos the energy we need. And then the exact quote is, "That's great. It brings all of our competitive spirits out, knowing that the head coach will chip in with K-Jack." That's Kareem Jackson. "That's the energy that we need for us to have a great team." When your coach is that energetic, trash talking, playing linebacker or whatever, and so much about the team, it only leaves a positive thing. So that's great. How much, though, Zach, in the final analysis, do you think that will really serve the Broncos?
Well, it's notable because this is from a non-trash talker, and that's Patrick Surtain said he's not much for trash talking, but he admits there's a satisfaction to it because it almost forms a bond between offense and defense. And as I wrote in the article, what Nathaniel Hackett's attempting to do is walk that fine line between offense and defense, galvanizing the entire team and not just one side of the ball. And he's doing that. And as Surtain says, he'll celebrate with the defense, but of course, not as much as when he celebrates with the offense, like when he mobbed Tim Patrick after the long Patrick touchdown. But the point remains, based on all accounts, based on what we've seen with our own eyes, Chad, the energy, the life, the vitality is back. The heartbeat is back in Dove Valley, thanks to Nathaniel Hackett. And as I wrote there, under Vic Fangio, the environment was sterile. It was like a deserted moratorium, Chad. It was just, there's no life, no heartbeat, no nothing. Now there's music playing. People are smiling again. People are having fun again. That's what football is. It's a game when you boil it down. And no one was having fun under Vic Fangio. It wasn't a game to them. It was a job. Now it's a game again, and they're having fun. That's the beauty of having someone like Hackett.
I was just explaining that to my son, in fact, over the weekend as he was doing a basketball tournament, getting ready for freshman year at high school, that, hey, because you can get pretty wound up when you're playing competitive sports, and you can kind of get some tension and a little anxiety. And I'm like, listen, dude, it's a kid's game. You're a kid. Enjoy it. Have fun. I get it. You want to take it seriously. You want to compete. You want to be great. Of course, all those things, winning, ultimate, that's what the bottom line is. But try to have fun along the way, because even the dudes that are collecting $1 million, multi-million-dollar paychecks in basketball, football, you name it, MLB, they're still playing a kid's game. And that's one of the cool lines I like, Zach, from we're mixing some sports metaphors here, but from the movie Moneyball, we're playing a kid's game, and no one wants to hear, be told that they're done, they can't play the game anymore, but eventually everybody gets told. And you know what? Let that childlike exuberance, that true joy of the process come out in the wash. We want to see that to an extent. I just I just hope, Zach, it doesn't take away from any air of authority in terms of Nathaniel Hackett. But you know what? Over the weekend, as I was looking for some content inspiration, looking for story ideas and whatnot, surfing around the internet at denverbroncos.com, went back and looked at a few of the mic'd up segments they did with all three of the new coordinators, Dwayne Stukes, special teams, Ajiro Evero defense, and then Justin Outten on offense. And one thing I loved seeing, Zach, from all three of them, and I was racking my memory. You tell me if you can remember this, but I was racking my memory to think back if any of the recent coordinators, if I could remember seeing them in any clips, but all three of them were running the drills and participating in the drills with their players, which I thought was really cool.
I can't remember who talked about it. It was last week during a press conference where, God, I think it was an offensive player that said Nathaniel Hackett's in there with us, hitting the bag and getting involved in drills and just being a part of the team. Can you imagine Vic Fangio doing that? Can you imagine Vic Fangio doing any of this? So, you asked me to start this conversation, how much is this worth right now in June? How much do I take out of it? The point that you made is the only worry with having a coach that's player friendly, because you don't want a 2-player friendly environment. There's like the Herm Edwards, what he had with the Jets was Club Med. That was what it was around that team. You can do whatever you want. He's your friend, not your boss. He has to be both, and that's the tough part. But I think so far, in less than 6 months on the job, he's already transformed the culture from what was dead and bleak to what's hopeful and uplifting. Helps having Russell Wilson, though. I will say that.
Oh, most def. These new green screens we got are driving me nuts, dude. We got to come up with a better solution, which we will. Real quick though, Zach, shout out to everybody in the stream, especially Dylan helping us out in the chat. Great article Dylan dropped over the weekend comparing Nathaniel Hackett, his kind of bona fides to his AFC West head coach opponents. Andrew Lampy, it's great to see you, bro. Appreciate you in the chat, my friend. You are a prince. It's great to have you. Opethian, appreciate the props, my friend, and getting in early. Phil McLaughlin, who is throwing down. Love seeing it. And by the way, while I'm on it, so I don't forget here, here's your update for the Facebook contest. We're going to take all the top 5 from June, July, and August. Those names go into a hat. And then we are going to select one. It's a raffle. And then we're going to roll out the red carpet. We're going to get that person a ticket to the week 3 meet and greet, to the game itself, Broncos 49ers, and then cover their hotel, hang out with them, feed them. It'll be a lot of fun. And right now, Mark Schrader at the very top, followed by Gary Leeds Palmer, Jacob Foster, Lawrence Rivera, and then Phil McLaughlin rounding out the top 5 there. So appreciate the support, everybody. We'll do a YouTube update here in just a few, but really appreciate you, Phil. Good to see you, big dog. While we're on the subject of the coaching staff, we touched on this a little bit on our last stream on Thursday night, but Brandon McManus, who, he's kind of been late to the party. He's another one similar to Gordon that, hey, if it's voluntary, I do not volunteer to be there, but he did show up last week. So last week, Brandon McManus was really the first time that McManus had an opportunity to kind of square up in person, man-to-man, eye-to-eye with his new coordinator, Dwayne Stukes. And Dwayne Stukes, Zach, he's, you can tell from his pressers that he's a very no-nonsense, very intense individual, direct to the point. Watching his mic'd up during OTAs, like if you're one of his soldiers, so to speak, like he's a drill sergeant type, but not so much, Zach, the type that it's pure fear. You do fear it a little bit. You fear him, but at the same time, he's a guy that will roll up his sleeves and jump down into the hole with you and do the work. But he can be a little intimidating. And Brandon McManus, I thought it was interesting. I'm not going to read the whole quote, so I'll boil it down. Basically, his takeaway was he thinks that he is going to be great at motivating the players who the Broncos are going to rely on to, of course, participate on special teams, motivation, etc. Is that what has been lacking on special teams, Zach, in terms of the coverage snafus specifically, is just motivated guys?
It's funny that you asked that, because I'm wondering, did McManus say that about Tom McMahon? Did he say that about Brock Olivo before McMahon, that he's going to galvanize the new coordinator of the entire unit? It was a schematic issue for sure with McMahon, and also a player issue, because the players they had on special teams just were not good enough. But when it's year after year, when it's not a trend anymore, it's a reality, then it becomes the coach. And we talked about having club med or having a coach that's too player friendly. I believe that was Tom McMahon. That was the problem. He never held, just like Vic Fangio, Chad, he never held anyone accountable for the mistakes. He got up there on the podium every single Sunday or the day after the game, whatever, saying it was on me. It was my fault. Well, you just weren't good enough, Tom. I have a feeling Dwayne Stukes won't take that approach. He's going to point out players that are messing up. He's going to get rid of them if they keep messing up. That's the beauty of having these coaches, Ejiro Evero, Hackett, and Dwayne Stukes. Accountability is back in the building. So if you don't mess up, you will be replaced. That's how it works.
An interesting point that, pardon me, that McManus makes here is, quote, we all see these college players. Those are the best players on their teams when they come here. So even the guys, Zach, that are the scraping the bottom of the barrel, future signing guys, like limited odds at making the roster, they were once the elite on their own respective college teams. So he says those were the best players on their teams when they came here. Obviously, there are great players here already, so they're not going to be the number one player here. We have incredible players. Their role to help this team is going to be special teams. I think that's difficult for a lot of players to realize, and that's something I do not question the veracity of. Zach, he's been in the league now. He's in year 9, Brandon McManus. He has seen the psychological process that young players have to go through. They either embrace it or they die as a result. It's an adapt or die situation where pride is on the line. They come in, they're 4th, 5th, 6th on a depth chart. Their only chance at cracking the roster is to make an impact on special teams. But at the same time, they resent that, right? Because I was a star wide receiver. I was a star corner. I was a star running back. I was a star tight end, whatever. Well, guess what? Here, you're bottom of the barrel guy, and there's only one way to crack the roster. And the guys that you see succeed in that are the guys who are able to see the forest for the trees, humble themselves enough, see that, keep their eye on the prize, both short and long term, and really just embrace that that's what it's going to take. Justin Simmons, as a former 3rd-round pick, he's a good example of that. By all rights, as a former star at Boston College, he shouldn't have been, chasing down punts or whatever. He's not used to doing that, but he did it, and it helped endear him to the staff. He was making the roster no matter what, but he's a good example of the kind of mindset it takes to really, I think, succeed with special teams. And maybe that is part of what has been lacking, Zach.
If you have a player that says, I'm too good to play specials, then I don't want you on my team. You have to, like you said, humble yourself enough and do whatever it takes to help the team win. It's a team game. And I think the problem is, Chad, under McMahon, there were too many players that basically said that I'm too good to play this side of the ball. And not just that, McMahon said, okay, that's fine. We'll get somebody else. That's not going to fly under Dwayne Stukes. And that's what I love about this hire. I don't know much about him, where he came from before the Broncos, but ever since he was hired, I love the mentality. It's exactly what they needed.
We have the Duchess jumping in with a very, very generous super chat, getting things started for us tonight on super chat. Thank you, Michaela. You are the Duchess for a reason. We love you. We appreciate you. She says there is nothing wrong with special teams. It takes the whole to win. Amen. And that's something that really gets hammered home and becomes apparent. Like when your offense and your defense are just crushing it, the special teams, the margin for error is a little bit wider. Like, think back to the Peyton Manning era in Denver. Like, hey, when you actually got contributions from your special teams, Broncos were unstoppable. Like, for example, it's another reason why, I don't want to drag this up too much here, but it's another reason why losing that divisional round game against Baltimore was just egregious, because they got huge help on special teams, specifically from Trendon Holiday, housing some, I can't remember if it's a punt or a kick, but either way, when things are going well and your offense is solid and your defense is solid, you don't always notice the pros and cons of your special teams, Zach, unless there is a huge snafu. But when you don't have a good offense, especially, and the special teams is not on point, they're not executing, they're not disciplined, golly. And then you add to that, as you brought up, a kind of overall malaise, a lack of accountability. That's when it gets ugly. Lane, it's great to see you. Appreciate the stars, my friend. You're the bomb.
To me, my point of view on special teams, it's a lot like the offensive line. If you don't hear about them, it means they're doing their job correctly. If you do hear about them, it means that they've messed up in some way. So hopefully there's no issue or no discussion about the Broncos special teams this season. But when you bring up that game, which I won't mention, Chad, the exact name of it, it's funny, though. Joe Flacco beat the Broncos in that game, future Broncos quarterback. Russell Wilson beat the Broncos in SB48, future Broncos quarterback. Just the way the NFL cycle spins. Kind of funny.
A quick word to the wise guys. Look, if you come into the chat, even if you're a regular and you're promoting anything that is not under Mile High Huddle control, you're going to get muted, whether it's content, whether you're trying to sell something. I don't care what it is, because you are promoting something that Zach, myself, we can't vouch for. We have no idea. So when we see that, you're going to get muted. If we see it twice, you're going to get blocked. Just an FYI. Okay. I'm sure it's all fine. I'm sure there's nothing really to worry about, but we can't allow that promotion without a full heads up ourselves, knowing exactly what it is, if that's something we want to be associated with in our stream. Okay. All right, let's grab Lawrence here, throwing down in the top 5 on Facebook this month. Love it, dude. He says, who tried scamming McManus of his NFTs?
NFT, the collectible, whatever they are.
I don't know.
The new non-fungible tokens, I think they're called. I'm not big on them, but that's the new craze.
Oh, I don't know, dude.
I don't know who scammed McManus. I don't think he got into that in his press.
What are we talking about? Crypto?
What's
an NFT? I have no idea what you're talking about, Lawrence. I'm a little bit lost, dude. If you want to clarify on that, the syntax here is helpful. Clarity in the syntax. GLP, what's good, bro? He says, it's good to see my MHH priests, and hello to Scott. Love y'all, and sending love to Broncos country. Go Broncos, and let's ride. Really appreciate that energy, Gary, and the support, of course, always goes a long, long way. So it is great to see you. Appreciate you, my friend. Also, we have an announcement. You guys were wondering on YouTube who won the jersey, because top 5 finishers all went into a hat. Did the drawing. Turns out it went to the DWI guys. Ethan cleaned up once again. He just had more tickets in the hat. But as a development here, Ethan reached out to us, knowing kind of some of the conversations that have taken place recently in our chat and some of the revelations of members of our community. And he wants that jersey to go to Dale Fleming. Dale, who's been through a really difficult situation. Anything Ethan can do is his view anyway, DWI guys, to help you feel the love, assuage, small thing, whatever it can be. So Dale, you have, of course, Ethan, the DWI guys, to thank for this, but you got a jersey coming your way. So what we need to know, Dale, and you can the easiest thing so it doesn't get missed is to send an email to us, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, with your t-shirt or your jersey size and your shipping address, and we'll get that jersey on its way to you, my friend. But congratulations to Ethan for winning. Appreciate you, Ethan, and big props for that show of selflessness and just looking out for one of your own kind. Very cool.
Ethan is what I would call a mensch, and that's what a mensch type thing is, to give Dale the prize. So Dale, it's a small token of our appreciation, of Ethan's appreciation. I hope that helps you in some way, and know that we're there for you every single day. So
for sure. So don't forget to send that email, Dale. Andrew Baker, what's up, my fam? Been busy grilling and chilling with my boys. Of all the Chubb buzz I've heard, if he has a good year, should they sign a deal or just tag him? So, Zach, they could franchise tag him. I guess it would depend on the definition of a good year.
Right.
So are we talking 8 or 9 sacks, which if you look at Bradley Chubb's track record, his resume, that would be a good year for Bradley Chubb. Are we talking double-digit sacks and he's available? I don't think he'd get the double-digit sacks without him being available pretty much every game this year. But if we're talking double-digit sacks and like a Pro Bowl caliber season, I would just pay him. If we're talking 7, 8, 9 sacks, I mean, even his Pro Bowl year, he only had 7 sacks. If we're talking that kind of a year, maybe I tag him. But that would be a tough decision, to be honest.
I can only imagine what the tag number is going to be for an edge rusher for next year. It's going to be astronomical, and that's all tied up, and the Broncos can't really split that up for the salary cap. But I think in terms of a good year, it also ties into Nick Bonito and Randy Gregory. If Gregory stays healthy and Nick Benito comes on stronger than maybe anticipated, I'm thinking twice about paying Bradley Chubb. It all depends on what he does as well. But to give you an example, you said 8 sacks. If Bradley Chubb has 8 sacks and Nick Benito has 6, let's say, and Gregory has 10, am I going to give Bradley Chubb a long-term deal? I don't know. Am I going to franchise tag him? Probably not. So there's different things or different extensions to Bradley Chubb's season, his last season potentially with the Broncos. First things first, though, he has to step up to the plate. He has to produce. It'll take care of itself. He goes back to being that rookie Bradley Chubb. He will get paid one way or another. If he has 7 sacks, though, and players around him are performing better or higher ceiling, then I can see the Broncos walking away.
I'm liking what I'm seeing from his just kind of his energy. He's looking good in practice.
Yeah, he's had a great offseason. Yeah,
it is practice. People are talking about him in the he's back kind of way in terms of his teammates and coaches. And by the way, Dale's saying, what? Thank you. Appreciate that, he says to Ethan. But yeah, Dale, don't forget to send that email, big dog. Congrats. Mark Knapp says, if Chris Harris Jr. would sign a 1-year, $4 million deal, would you sign him?
No.
You signed K'Wan Williams. Chris is over the hill, dude. Chris, no. I mean, $4 million.
No.
1 year, $2 million. I would consider it, but even $4 million, he's not really worth it when you have K'Wan.
I would rather play a Sang Bassi and Jaquan McMillian over bringing back an over the hill Chris Harris Jr., who kind of burned more than one bridge on his way out of Denver. By the way, I know previous regime.
It's not going to happen. Yeah,
not coming back. I'm fine with who the Broncos have.
It's not to shut down the topic, Mark, like it's some dumb question. It's not. It's just that the realistic, the plausibility of the Broncos bringing him back after they bent over backwards to try and placate him and keep him, offered him a lucrative extension in the fall right before he hit unrestricted free agency, which he declined because he thought he would get more money on the open market, and he didn't. He actually had to take less money from the Chargers than the deal John Elway offered him during the season of his contract year. And that's notwithstanding, Zach, the $3 million raise they gave him for nothing.
Right.
Like he could have held out, whatever. Teams don't just give you a raise without adding new years to the deal. In other words, to basically hedge for them, make it worth their while to, in other words, you're breaking the contract. You're saying, I know you agreed that we would pay you this much. We agreed we would pay you this much. We're going to go ahead and break the agreement and pay you more because we want you to be happy. And then we're going to offer you a more than fair contract extension in the fall. You turn your nose up at it. He's not coming back here. I know it's John Elway's not calling the shots anymore, but I'm just telling you, he kind of burned his bridge with that front office.
And it wasn't like $100 raise. It was $3 million. Yeah. And what does he do after that? He signs with the Broncos' rival, the Chargers, and he was burnt toast there. So go put on the film. Even if he didn't burn bridges coming out of Denver, his play does not warrant another contract. Maybe a one-day contract if he wants to retire a Bronco, but not $4 million worth. Well, that ship has sailed.
All right, Lawrence, I'm looking on Twitter. I'll see if I can find it. Pardon me. So there's not any dead air here. I'll go back on here in a minute and I'll look through it. But one last thing to be said about Chris, and then I'll grab Nick here. Chris Harris should be appreciated for being one of the Super Bowl 50 heroes that he is. All right, like he's a true blue Denver Broncos champion success story. Multiple Pro Bowls, multiple All-Pro nods. Undrafted, wasn't even invited to the combine. And unlike Phillip Lindsay, where it was kind of Phillip had 2 really good years for the Broncos, only one of which, though, was he able to get an accolade, a Pro Bowl nod or whatever. But in Chris Harris's situation, multiple accolades, contributed to the 2 Super Bowl teams. He ended up getting hurt on the first one, couldn't be in the Super Bowl for Super Bowl 48. Big reason why they won Super Bowl 50 was the no-fly zone. Chris, Keep Talib, Bradley Roby, TJ Ward, Darian Stewart. So big props to Chris, and I think one day he's going to be in the Ring of Fame. I really do think that for the Denver Broncos. Well, he's got a chance. He's got a solid chance at the Ring of Fame. I give him all his props, but that ship sailed.
SB 50 was so long ago. I do recognize the greatness of Chris Harris Jr. when in his prime with the Broncos, but that's 6 years ago now. That's an eternity in the NFL. And this is a comment real quick from Chase that's very apropos. to the topic. Chase says Chris Harris Jr. wanted number 1 cornerback money, and then he complained about Vic Fangio putting him outside. I know he's a slot guy, but if you want that money, you got to play, you got to do what you have to do. And he was a complainer. He was literally pointing and blaming his teammates for giving up long touchdowns toward the end of his Broncos tenure. No.
Yeah, that was a pet peeve for both of us. Completion, Chris Harrison coverage, and then tackle, and then he would look around like this.
It's not me.
It's like, well, dude, you were in coverage, so maybe you point the finger this way. Anyway, what was that one from Nick? Did we grab it? Sorry to keep you waiting, dude. But as we circle back on that, Zach, we titled the stream tonight around what have we learned from what has been a pretty momentous and kind of pace-changing offseason for the Broncos. What have we learned? We're going to get to that here. Nick says, if the Avs win the Cup, it'll boost the Broncos to make a run to the Super Bowl and bring another championship to Denver. Hey, dude, it's all good energy for the city of Denver. Go Avs. We want to see the Avs bring it home, dude. That would be phenomenal. Hope it happens, and who knows how that could help fuel a Broncos run this year. We'll see.
Could be the new city of champions with the richest owner in the NFL at the helm of the Broncos. So I'm looking forward to it. I think the Avalanche could take care of the Tampa Bay, by the way. So should be a good series.
That reminds me, shout out to Big T, Travis Weber. Have we seen him in the chat here yet? I don't know. Oh, yeah, he's in the chat. So shout out to Big T, Travis Weber. I saw this meme he shared yesterday. I don't know if you created the meme. You probably didn't, Travis, but it's very good nonetheless. It's running on Mile High Huddle Facebook and on our Instagram page. But it basically says for Raiders fans, every time they go to Walmart and buy something at Walmart, it must kill them that they're supporting the Broncos.
That's great.
Yeah, and you can say that about the Chiefs, the Chargers. Walmart's freaking everywhere. But anyway, just wanted to give you your props, Travis.
Thank you.
I tried to actually tag you on Facebook too, by the way. It wouldn't let me for some reason. It no longer, it'll allow me to @search public figures, but individual private accounts, even if they're following the page, Zach, for whatever reason, doesn't allow that anymore. But anyway, so takeaways. Zach, what's 1 or 2, 3 big things you've got from what you've learned so far this summer?
I have one immediately. It's freaking amazing having a franchise quarterback. That's the engine of the car, okay? And you can have a Ferrari, but if you don't have an engine in the Ferrari, then it's pointless. The Broncos have an engine now. It's a freaking V10 with Russell Wilson. He's brought that entire the catalyst for change starts with number 3, but also it's great having a coaching staff that not only toes the line between fun and player friendly like Hackett, but has accountability like we talked about with Stooks, and instilling that culture of answering for your mistakes and not just getting by and excusing them. So I've learned ultimately when you have a franchise quarterback, I mentioned it, I think it was on Thursday's show, everything seems to fall in place easily, organically, naturally. And it wasn't the case the last 5 years.
Definitely I just feel like the Broncos are 5 or 6 steps ahead of where they would be with a new coaching staff because of the presence of Russell Wilson. I think he's helping the entire offense to hit the ground running in terms of, the installs that are taking place on the new scheme. And a lot of it is going to be familiar because it's West Coast based and everything. And that's, even though it was kind of run out of different formations and whatnot under Pat Shurmur, his 11 personnel kind of take on the West Coast offense was still West Coast. But having Russell has really helped to shorten that trial and error learning curve, I think, for everybody. It's like having another coach out there on the field. And that's what a franchise quarterback does. To throw a cliche out there, he is the tide that raises all ships. And you can kind of measure that a little bit in OTAs, but you'll be able to measure that in a big, bad way when you actually get to the football season. So there's that. I think you touched on that perfectly. The other thing here is that I love the proletariat, the working man, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and get in there with you mindset of this coaching staff. Blue collar. I'm using all these words, blue collar. I love that, dude. I love seeing that. We talk at the top of the show, we're talking about, Nathaniel Hackett, John with the defense and Kareem Jackson and giving energy to the team and whatnot. But you know what? If you go look at some of those mic'd up videos of Justin Outten, Ajiro Evero, and Dwayne Stukes, they're all basically doing that. And I just think that it helps to kind of create the ownership component where we all are in this together. We're all taking ownership of this. It's not us telling y'all what to do. Hey, we'll show you what to do. We'll actually get in the trench with you. Now, we can't suit up on Sundays, obviously, but we're going to go through. I'll show you. You know, they're sprinting from drill to drill with their dudes. Like when it's time to shift and go do something else, they're not just like, you know, walking or Vic, you know, walk kind of waddling over or whatever. Like it's there's just some energy with this team. The staff's a big reason for it. Obviously, Russ is a big reason for it. And then throwing into that milieu, you got the new ownership coming in and just there's changes in the wind. And I think for the Broncos, they've been in the doldrums where you talk about change. There's really nowhere to go but up. So I think it's all good things for this team so far this season.
Yeah, another one is the fact that when you have a good general manager, it makes things a lot easier too. A competent football person in charge, and George Payton in just less than 2 calendar years? Not even two full calendar years on the job yet as Broncos GM.
1.25.
He's completely remodeled what John Elway left behind. And also, Chad, I learned that even with Russell Wilson, even with Hackett, even with all the players they have and the optimism, there is still a tangible and legitimate Broncos bias out there. There is still a whole sect of haters, including Seahawks fans now because of the trade, that just want to hate on the Broncos and say they're last in the West and Russ is the worst quarterback in the West. And that'll never go away, at least until the Broncos prove it on the field. But I've learned that as well. No matter what they do, there's going to be that bias and that hate against them. But bulletin board material.
North of the 49th parallel, we have Gary Blah Blah jumping in up in Canada. Appreciate that super chat, buddy. He says, you guys are the best. MHH for life from Montreal. Very cool, Gary. We do appreciate that, big dog. It all adds up, helping to keep the lights on. And Michaela jumping in too with another super. Thank you so much, my friend. She says, I'm happy for Dale. Wear it well, brother. I'm sure he will. Don't forget to send that email, Dale. He says, I have to wake up and get on Broncos for breakfast so I can thank Ethan. I'm so blown away by the generosity. Yeah, it's all good, dude. Everyone, we look out for our own here at MHH. And Ethan, hey, he exemplifies that. We're very lucky to have people like Ethan and all of you as a part of this thing.
And if it just can provide a small token of comfort for you, Dale, that's all we really hope for, considering what you're going through and what you share with us. So I hope it brings you happiness, and I'm very fortunate that Ethan did that to bring you that happiness, Dale.
Yes. Claude on Facebook, appreciate you, bro. He says, last time we had a new coach and a big-time quarterback, things went well right off the bat. Here's hoping for similar results. Go Broncos. Yeah, I mean, you can look at the all four thing from the new owner, new quarterback, new coach, new GM. There's a precedent for it. If you go back to the 80s when Pat Bowlen bought the Broncos, they had just landed John Elway the year prior, and Dan Reeves was only a couple of years on the job, and they went on to, within pretty short order, to go to 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. They weren't quite able, obviously, to hoist the Lombardi and get to the very, very tippity top of the mountain, but it's a really positive harbinger in terms of what could come next. And then I think what you're speaking to, though, Claude, was 2012. John Fox, 1 year removed from being hired. John Elway, GM / VP of football operations, 1 year removed from being hired. Peyton Manning, and the only difference there was Pat Bowlen was still the owner, but the next 4 years from there were unprecedented levels of success for the Broncos.
Man, I'm not hoping, I hope, but I'm being realistic. I could say the Broncos are going to win all of their games in the regular season, but I'm going to keep it simple after the last half decade. I want to see the Broncos win football games. That's A. And B is I want to see the Broncos win football games because of their offense and because of their quarterback. Everything else is fine and dandy after that, but that is going to be the barometer of change for me, how the Broncos start winning and how they start winning, because we talked about it since 2016, Chad, or for you and I since 2018. They have to learn how to win again. And that doesn't change just because they have Russell Wilson. It's a whole new collective now. They have to learn how to be winners. They have to reconquer their place in the AFC West on top of that mountain, reclaiming that spot over Kansas City. When they do that, then they'll be there. But if they could just win some ball games because of Russ, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
By the way, Lawrence, I'm looking through my mentions, and I'm having a hard time finding what you said you tagged me in. But when you have thousands of people following, you get a lot in your mentions, and it's not always easy to pick individual things out. But I just went back for a couple of days. I didn't see anything. So just spell it out in the chat, dude. Just I don't want to leave you hanging. I want to feel like we took care of your question, buddy. Back to some takeaways. Who are some of the players? Now, obviously, this is you can barely call it football. There's no contact. They're not in pads. But who are some of the players, whether it's holdovers, new guys, rookies, free agents, that have, I don't know, impressed you, that you've noticed this summer?
Pat Surtain,
aside from Russ.
Pat Surtain had a pick 6. So he actually had 2 picks in OTA. So I'm going to say Pat Surtain. That guy is going to be a freaking perennial All-Pro. Cannot wait to see him play. Bradley Chubb, you talked about him. He's had a tremendous OTA and spring practice session on the field. He's been harassing Russell Wilson. He's been getting into the backfield. He's been a nuisance for Nathaniel Hackett, Alton, and the offense. I want to say Albert O, too. I saw some highlights where there were tight end screens, and Albert O was the beneficiary. He burned, I can't remember the DB, but he burned him on a post down the middle of the field. Tim Patrick and the wide receivers, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, even Jerry Jeudy. KJ Hamler has been, I think, ahead of schedule in his rehab, so the entire receiving room has been a standout. Of course, having Russell Wilson will, help that. But the one that really stood out, honestly, is Bradley Chubb, because he was been singled out by his coaches. You saw the highlights they've posted. I learned about the Broncos Twitter chat. They don't post highlights if it makes the offense or Russell Wilson look bad. And they snuck one Chubb highlight in there, which was a sack. But he ran into Nathaniel Hackett, and Hackett had to kind of slow him down. So Chubb's been all over the field. He's been my number one standout.
Love it. Agreed. Jacob, the silent one, Foster, jumping in. Appreciate that, brother. It's great to see you. Thank you for the stars, my friend. Bradley Dunton, who was one of the great guys we got to meet at the last meet and greet. We hope to see you again, Bradley, at week 3 this coming fall. But he says, what have you heard about how the backup quarterbacks are doing? Josh Johnson looks good with the few throws we've seen. Yeah, I mean, solid. Russ is your guy. It's like when Peyton was here, people would ask about Brock Osweiler, and it's like, well, it's Brock Osweiler. Let's talk about Peyton Manning, though. How about that? That's who's going to see the field. And, of course, then the injury bug eventually reared its head on Peyton, and then all of a sudden, hey, what do you know about Brock Osweiler? But Josh Johnson, look, he's a solid guy, a veteran. Like, again, I said this a couple of days ago on the pod. You look up journeyman, NFL veteran, his picture is going to be right there. The coaches can trust him to know the scheme, to understand assignments for everybody and get out there. But he's not going to blow the doors down. He's a hold the fort down for a game or two in a worst-case scenario. If you had to turn to Josh Johnson to quarterback this team in 2022, all the King's horses, all the King's men aren't going to get it done. But that's the difference, Zach, between having a true franchise guy and then there's everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, what are my opinions on Josh Johnson? He exists. He's part of the Broncos. He's under contract. I mean, backup quarterback. That's what he is. Not an overly exciting one. Neither is Brett Rippon. But the fortunate thing is the Broncos have their guy, as Chad just talked about, and Russell Wilson. And minus a fluke injury last year, Wilson doesn't get injured. He's an Iron Man at quarterback. The good thing is, though, if they had a lean on Josh Johnson, you go back and watch the film, he did pretty nice things for the Jets last year. I know it's all relative for the Jets, but I think you can have a worse backup quarterback like Brandon Allen, Joe Flacco. Those names come to mind. Yeah,
he's solid. Lawrence says, trying to clarify, he says, McManus had someone hit him up out of the blue trying to scam him, supposedly, and he just played along. Well, he's a pretty savvy cat. And by the way, Brandon McManus just got put on the NFLPA executive committee, so his britches got even bigger. But yeah, he's a guy that when he steps into the room, he's the coolest guy and the smartest guy he knows. Brandon McManus, and he probably, he's made a lot of money in the league for a kicker. He's pretty smart about money. I would guess he's one of those guys that's good with money too. So like he could probably sniff that out immediately. Doesn't surprise me.
Well, if he just went along with it, then that's on him. If he got scammed, you can't go along with anything,
Well, I
especially
don't
on
think he
social
did get
media.
scammed. He just went along with a potential scammer type thing is what he's saying.
All right. I don't follow NFTs, so I wish him
Crypto.
the best.
Hey, dude, I've tried to learn a little bit about crypto. If you're not, I don't know, man. Like I've learned a lot over the last few years about investing, of stocks and whatnot, and I've gotten a lot more serious on that type of thing. But crypto is just one of those subjects that for me is really hard to understand why and how it has value and how it moves and all the different tokens and coins and the different possibilities and whatnot. But we're going down a boring street right now. So back to your Denver Broncos. Wombat says, hi, all. I've been away for a week due to a heart attack. What? And in the hospital. Glad to be able to hear MHH again. Dang, bro. I'm sorry to hear that, but glad to hear you're alive and kicking, my dog. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers up for you, my friend. Positive vibes, good energy going your way, Wombat.
Thanks for joining us, and please get well soon. Let us know if you can, maybe tomorrow, how you're doing. Appreciate you.
Hey, since we're in the off season, let's grab Jordan Mall's here. Question: what do you think Denver's outlook would be with Nathaniel Hackett year one? Let's just say if it was Drew Lock, what would the outlook be, record-wise?
Man, I don't know. It's far cry from Russell Wilson and Drew Lock. I think you can make more out of Drew Lock with a coach like Hackett. I mean, there were so many problems related to the coaching and Pat Shurmur, Vic Fangio. When you look at Lock's ceiling for what we know it is, it's infinitely shorter than Russell Wilson's ceiling as a starting quarterback. So to answer the question specifically, they won 7 games last year with the Teddy Drew combination. I think they can win 9 with Drew Lock and Hackett, a couple more wins because they have that coaching, but it's not going to take you to the 11, 12, 13 win range like Russell Wilson would. That's my opinion.
My whole take on that would be hinging, Phil, appreciate you, bro. Thank you, buddy. Hinging everything on, was just a different kind of coaching. A coaching staff that believed in Drew. Was that really the missing component here to finally unlocking him? Pun intended there. Because if Nathaniel Hackett were to come in and be that missing link, then I think the Broncos, with all the different moves they made, could definitely be a team that pushes for like a wild card. But that's a big if, and that's yet to be determined. Like it's still something I hold in high suspicion in terms of wondering what Drew Lock's arc would have been in Denver if he had a coaching staff and post. If they wouldn't have fired Skangs and all that stuff. We don't need to go too much farther down that road. But if he would have had a coaching staff that stayed committed to him, believed in him, and maybe obviously a little bit better play caller, innovator offensively, what could have happened? But ifs and buts, if they were candy and nuts, we all would have a Merry Christmas.
Well, I can guarantee you that Hackett would know Drew Lock's birthday. That's a definite. There'd be a level playing field. There wasn't that with Teddy and Drew. That's the problem.
That was so brutal, dude. That was so brutal. Oh, man. Phil, yeah, dude. Thank you, buddy. All right, there's a couple other things I want to touch on here before we let me delete that before we get out of here. Zach, how much does it make a difference how much does it matter, I should say, that Josie Jewell, ran like a 4.840 at the combine when he was coming out? Carl Mecklenburg. Now this news is about a week old. We ran an article that Thomas wrote of Legends of Mile High when Carl Mecklenburg joined him, not this past Friday, but the one previous. A couple of notable, newsworthy comments that Carl, a Broncos legend and Ring of Famer, said about current events and current players. He talked about Baron Browning's position switch. Tom wrote an article about that. And then he also talked about Josie Jewell. And he said this, Zach, quote, "When evaluating an inside linebacker, the 40-yard dash time is not on the top of the list. If I had to run 40 yards on the field in a given play, we were in trouble. That is not a realistic measure of somebody's quickness on the field." He goes on to say a little bit more. He says, quote, an inside linebacker, first off, has got to be smart enough to control the defense. That's a huge piece of his job. My role, he spent, even though Carl started games at all of the front seven positions, his main gig in Denver for most of his career was middle linebacker. He said, my role was to make sure the front seven were in the right place at the right time. When the offense adjusted, all the defensive linemen are staring at the ball or the nose of the person lined up across from them. That's all they see. So if anything changes, it is the inside linebacker's job to get everyone lined up right. I think that's something Josey Jewell is really good at. I watched him. His growth from his first year to his second year was tremendous. He's a guy that you can trust to get everyone lined up right, and then big plays don't happen. So what he's saying here, Zach, aside from the brainiac stuff, obviously, is that long speed, breakaway speed at the linebacker position, while it can be helpful, what's more important is what takes place between the ears so that you can anticipate and be at the places where the ball is going to be, and maybe short area quickness. I think that's absolutely true. And in Josey Jewell's case last year, before he tore that pec, it was looking like all those things had really come together for him.
Well, there's speed and football speed. There's two different things. And Josey at that position, his headiness, I think, makes up for it, because before the receiver or running back, whatever is in that spot, Jewell knows he's going to be there, so he can beat him to that spot. But
right.
I never doubted Jewell as a run stuffer. I never doubted Jewell as a leader, as a good locker room guy. I give him all of those kudos, very much deserved. I just doubt Jewell as a 3-down pass covering inside linebacker. If they can hide him in that department, I'm fine with it. I've wanted a dynamic upgraded inside linebacker for quite a while. I was a big fan of Baron Brown at inside linebacker because he was dynamic. But if Jewell can use his headiness and his football ability and IQ to help the Broncos defense, that's all I want. If they can mitigate his weaknesses, that's all I care about.
Big T is celebrating his 45th birthday. And, of course, he's been a Broncos fan for 34 of those years. Dude, happy birthday to you, my friend. I would sing the song to you if our channel wouldn't get hit with a copyright claim. But just know, we love you. We appreciate you. Enjoy that 46th trip around the sun.
Happy birthday to you. All right, that's it.
Free Ding. Sample. Oh, the Algobots just got us, dude.
It's worth it, though. He deserves it.
Yes, absolutely, bro. Happy birthday to you. One other thing I wanted to cover, and then we'll wind things down here for tonight, is Patrick Surtain. I thought this was very interesting. Now, he's not the most verbose guy at the microphone, right? Like you kind of have to poke him and prod him to really get him to say things. And it's not because he's trying to be cagey. It's that he's still just kind of a young guy. He's kind of used to being seen, not heard type thing. And so he just, he doesn't speak that much. When even direct questions, he'll give you one or two answers, and that's it. But he was asked, of the young cornerback group, because if you look at it, K'Wan Williams, Ronald Darby, they have some serious experience, obviously, as longtime league vets. But beyond them, even including Patrick Surtain, the Broncos are very young at cornerback. And he was asked, was Surtain, which cornerback has been turning heads for you in OTAs? Quote, here's Surtain. OJ. He's made plays, talking Michael Ojemudia. He's made plays throughout these OTAs. He's been balling. He's been showing that he's capable of making those big-time plays. Been showing out these whole OTAs. So I would say OJ. Zach, are we sleeping perhaps on – because, look, OJ had a really unfortunate second year. And then when he got the opportunity to play, whatever that was, the last two games, I want to say, of the 2021 campaign, he played actually quite well. What's your outlook for Michael Ojemudia this year?
I don't think we're sleeping on him, because they need a cornerback to step up. When you get past Ronald Darby and Pat Surtain and K'Wan Williams, they don't have anyone, veteran or rookie, that's entrenched as the next guy. So I want OJ to be that guy, even though he blocked me on Twitter. But Nathaniel Hackett talked about him too. It was like maybe a month ago, a couple weeks ago. He singled OJ out. He was asked about him and praised him. So even though he got beat on that Tim Patrick touchdown on the arm of Russell Wilson, apparently Ojemudia is having a strong spring so far, and I want that for the Broncos. I hope he steps up. I hope PS2 is right, because they need that guy. If you look at the depth chart beyond Darby, Surtain, and K'Wan Williams, it's scary, honestly.
Lawrence says, great show, much love, and honestly, I can't wait to see Hamler let loose. If he's as fast as he was before the injury, I'll be happy, because Russ has that secret weapon. And then, of course, happy birthday to Travis Weber. Yeah, dude, it's going to be fun to see how the Broncos can make use of KJ's speed. Same with Montreal Washington. Like, for a 5th-round pick that came out of nowhere from a small school, that zero film of him out there, he's already basically earned a spot or landed a spot. Maybe not earned yet is not the right word, but like he's going to make this roster as the kick return guy, and he's got some speed too. Maybe not quite as fast as Hamler, but the point I guess too is he's making is he going to be as fast as he was before the injury? With the way modern sports medicine works, Zach, I mean, you've got a guy like Adrian Peterson, who admittedly is one of the all-time physical freaks that God ever created, but still to tear your ACL halfway through a football season, come back the next year and rush for almost the NFL single season record, get over 2,000. My point being, though, even though he's a freak, KJ Hamler, I think, is a little bit of a freak too. I'm not too worried about him losing a step on that knee, but we'll see. Like Cortland Sutton wasn't the same guy last year. I think he'll be this year. I think he'll come back to himself. That brace thing that he was wearing after his ACL tear obviously kind of fiddled with his mojo a little bit. We'll see how much that lingers for KJ, but I think it might not happen right away, but I think you'll see that speed demon KJ still for the Denver Broncos at some point this season.
That's a really good point, because with knee injuries and ACLs, MCLs, whatever, they say it takes about a year for a player to get comfortable mentally, psychologically, and physically comfortable and get back to prior form. And just like you mentioned, Cortland Sutton, I think we'll see a pre-injury Cortland Sutton this year, obviously with better quarterback play. KJ, the worry, though, it wasn't just an ACL. He had, other ligament damage. He really messed up his knee on that pass from Teddy Bridgewater. But the thing is, he's not a number 1, KJ. He's not a number 2. He's not even really a number 3. He's a deep threat. I'm not dissing KJ at all. I'm just pointing out the fact they don't have to lean on him, the workload coming off that injury. If he wants to run some 9 routes, get down the field, open up the offense, that's all they'll need from him in the beginning. And based on what we've seen, they have tremendous chemistry so far. He's at way ahead of schedule. He should be perfectly healthy in time for week 1. And that speed, you can never have enough of it. You mentioned Montreal, KJ, also Jalen Virgil, undrafted receiver, kind of making waves in camp. The more speed, the better on this offense, because we talked about the cornerback depth chart beyond those 3. When you get past beyond KJ's speed as the speed guy, there is no one that can do what he does. No one.
Andrew Baker, appreciate you, buddy. If there are hiccups on offense this year, is it because of the chemistry between Russ and the receivers, or is it Hackett's game plan? No, I think there will be hiccups. Like, expect there to be hiccups. When you have that many new parts to a whole, there will be some trial and error. Russell Wilson's experience and talent combined with Nathaniel Hackett's wherewithal as a coach, I think will minimize those trial and error. But when it happens, it's going to be due to just the newness of everything. Everything is so new. It's a new coach, new scheme, new quarterback, a lot of the same role players and everything, but it's just going to be guys learning to work together within the new scheme and all that stuff. They should be able to get through it pretty quick, though.
Yeah, I don't like looking at things too black and white. Even if they get out to a strong start, the defense around the NFL, defenses will adjust to what Russell Wilson and Hackett are doing. So it could be a case that the defense is doing their job. The opposing coordinator is doing his job and shutting down the Broncos. And like Chad said, there are going to be hiccups. They're not going to go 17-0, even though we all want them to. They're not going to be, 800 yards a game, 50 points a game. There's going to be times where they lose a game or they don't have a great day on offense, but those days will be lessened. That's the important part from in years past. The offense isn't going to be week in and week out the detriment to the team. They're going to be the strength of the team, but there are going to be some peaks and valleys along the way.
Agreed. I'm just reading through some of the comments here in the chat. But, guys, thank you for joining us on kind of a sleepy Sunday. Tomorrow, it's going to be happening. Don't miss it, because it'll actually be the last time that you'll see myself and Zach on camera for about 2 weeks, because after tomorrow, we don't do Wednesday nights anymore. As you know, that's Mile High Insiders now. Thursday night, for the next 2 weeks, starting that Thursday, I will be gone on vacation, like a real vacation. I will be gone. So meet us in the chat tomorrow night. You know the time. And it's going to be cool, Zach, because we get Broncos mandatory minicamp. I'm looking at the press release the Broncos sent us. We get Coach Hackett at 1 p.m. We're going to have select players available. So we'll have some remarks, some comments, things to kind of sift through tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow night's show.
Let me just say, I don't really care what happens in mandatory minicamp. Just please, God, no injuries. Please, that's all I really care about. But it's going to be fun, Chad, talking about that tomorrow, going over that this week. But that was the Huddle Up podcast for tonight. Like Chad said, we're back on tomorrow night. Same time, same place, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Until that time, follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter if you so choose at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Chad on Twitter at Chad and Jensen. You can follow myself at Kelberman NFL. Follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch, you know what it is, where it is, huddleuppod.com. Wow. Get your merch on if you haven't already. New merch, new website. Check it out. Also, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Like that page and follow that page. Guys, if you haven't, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football pre-save 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every month. Can't talk today. But if you can't do any of those things, as you see ticking below you, please do these 3 things. Subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Shout out to these great supporters tonight on Facebook. We had a great show of support, starting with Lawrence Rivera at the very top, Phil McLaughlin, Andrew Baker, Jacob Foster, Gary Leeds Palmer, Lena throwing down, Dan, Mark, Andrew Lampy, Nick. Appreciate each and every one of you. And then our Super Chat superstars, the Duchess, Gary Blah Blah. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you, as Zach said, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Dale's wishing you a great vacation, asking if I'm going to take one. That's a negative, Dale. No days off for me, just like Bill Belichick says. But that's going to be doing for tonight, guys. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.